15 black actors who were constantly drunk. What if I told you one of the most respected actors alive drank 2 bottles of wine a day for 15 years and stopped cold on his 60th birthday? That the most quoted actor in Hollywood was found unconscious on his kitchen floor by his 8-year-old daughter and has been sober for 33 years since? That a hip-hop legend once spent $2,400 a day on crack and now cheers on Olympic swimmers in Paris? These 15 black stars fought battles the cameras never showed. And here's the part that stays with you. Every one of them told us themselves. Nobody exposed them. Stay to the end. And subscribe to Secret Celebrity Stories, where the truth behind the fame comes to light. Denzel Washington. For decades, Denzel Washington has been the most universally admired actor of his generation, which is precisely why his November 2024 Esquire cover story landed with such force. Born in Mount Vernon, New York in 1954, the son of a Pentecostal minister, he earned his degree from Fordham before training at San Francisco's American Conservatory Theater, then built a career of almost unmatched authority, an Academy Award for Best Actor for Training Day in 2002, making him only the second black man ever to claim that prize. But in that Esquire interview, at 69, he quietly revealed a 15-year pattern almost nobody had seen. It began subtly in the late 1990s, around the time he built a home with a 10,000-bottle wine cellar in 1999. What started as genuine wine appreciation slowly became a daily ritual of 2 bottles, and he explained the arithmetic himself with disarming honesty. He ordered exactly 2, because ordering more meant drinking more. Crucially, and this matters, Washington has been clear that he never drank while working or preparing a role, and says he was never strung out. The drinking lived in the gaps between productions. He even filmed Flight in 2012, playing an alcoholic pilot, near the tail end of it all. Then, on his 60th birthday in December 2014, he simply stopped, and by his own account hasn't had a drop since, a full decade later. He credits his faith, his family, and friend Lenny Kravitz, who connected him to a trainer. At 70, he speaks about the years ahead, the way his mother, who lived to 97, taught him to. His story's power isn't scandal. It's a man choosing to name something quietly, and then simply putting it down. Samuel L. Jackson. The most quoted actor alive carries one of Hollywood's most staggering recovery stories behind every Marvel one-liner he's ever delivered. Born in Washington, D.C. in 1948 and raised in segregated Tennessee, Samuel L. Jackson stuttered so severely as a boy that he barely spoke, and he graduated from Morehouse College in 1972 after a suspension for his role in a civil rights protest on campus. For nearly 2 decades afterward, he worked steadily as an actor while his addictions to alcohol and cocaine escalated brutally. He has been open that he performed on Broadway in August Wilson's The Piano Lesson while deep in it. His turning point came in 1991, and the image is unforgettable. His wife LaTanya Richardson and their 8-year-old daughter Zoe came home and found him unconscious on the kitchen floor. He entered treatment at the Hazelden Foundation in Minnesota and completed a 28-day program where he confronted the generational alcoholism in his own family. His father, whom he met only twice, died of alcohol-related complications, and then something remarkable happened. 2 weeks out of rehab, Spike Lee cast him as Gator Purify, a desperate addict in Jungle Fever, and the performance was so raw that the Cannes Film Festival created a special supporting actor award for him alone. What followed is unmatched. Over 150 films, a global box office total exceeding $27 billion, and a place among the highest-grossing actors in history. He has now been sober for more than 33 years. At the 2016 BET Lifetime Achievement Ceremony, he publicly thanked LaTanya and Zoe for saving his life. The swagger everyone loves rests entirely on a foundation he built the hardest way there is. Mike Tyson. The most feared boxer in heavyweight history spent decades fighting something far more dangerous than any opponent: Born in Brooklyn in 1966 and raised in brutal Brownsville, Michael Gerard Tyson had been arrested dozens of times before he was 14, until trainer Cus D'Amato found him in juvenile detention and became his legal guardian. At just 20, in November 1986, he became the youngest heavyweight champion the sport has ever produced, and he earned hundreds of millions of dollars, much of which evaporated into mansions, exotic animals, and chaos. Tyson has never hidden the rest. In his 2013 memoir, Undisputed Truth and the one-man shows that followed, directed by Spike Lee, he described heavy drinking and drug use at the very height of his fame, and has said his infamous 1997 ear-biting incident with Evander Holyfield was fueled by substances. The record also includes his 1992 rape conviction, for which he served 3 years. He returned to boxing afterward, but never recaptured the same dominance, finishing 50-6-2 with 44 knockouts. Beyond the ring, he reinvented himself with genuine warmth, stealing scenes across the Hangover trilogy and voicing his own animated series, Mike Tyson Mysteries, from 2014 to 2020. He has spoken about being largely sober from alcohol and hard drugs for over a decade, even while openly running a legal cannabis company, and his podcast conversations have become an unlikely refuge for people fighting their own addictions. In November 2024, at 58, he stepped back into a ring against Jake Paul. Tyson's story resists easy summary. A man whose worst chapters are permanently on the record, and who has spent his later years speaking about them with a candor few of his peers have ever risked. Idris Elba. Idris Elba's defining trait is discipline, and that discipline exists because he noticed something early and quietly fixed it before it ever became a headline. Born in Hackney, East London in 1972, to a Sierra Leonean father and a Ghanaian mother, he worked as a tire fitter, a nightclub DJ, and a door supervisor while chasing small British television parts through the late 1990s. His American breakthrough arrived as Russell Stringer Bell on HBO's The Wire, the same series that would make Michael K. Williams a legend. And from there he became genuinely unstoppable. Luther across nearly a decade, Pacific Rim, the Thor franchise, Beasts of No Nation, Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom, and Hijack in 2023. Time named him one of the 100 most influential people in the world. But in interviews, including a candid 2023 conversation on Jay Shetty's podcast, Elba described drinking heavily during his struggling early years. What makes his story different from almost everyone else's here is what didn't happen. No scandal, no arrest, no dramatic intervention, no rock bottom. The drinking felt social, normal, entirely expected in entertainment culture, and he simply noticed it was dulling his ambition and his edge, and walked away from it. He has said sobriety unlocked a level of focus and creativity that let him chase everything else. DJing under the name Big Drees, competitive kickboxing in his 40s, producing his own films. Now an officer of the Order of the British Empire and a longtime UN Goodwill ambassador, Elba stands as quiet, living proof of something the culture rarely says out loud, that you don't have to lose everything first. Sometimes recovery starts with nothing more dramatic than paying honest attention. Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry built the most self-made empire in black entertainment history, and nearly lost his footing when grief arrived with no warning. Born in New Orleans in 1969 as Emmett Perry Jr., he survived an abusive childhood and began writing letters to himself as therapy, letters that eventually became the stage plays that made him. From sleeping in his car in Atlanta in 1992, he rose to own Tyler Perry Studios, a 330-acre facility built on a former Army base, one of the largest production complexes in the country. And in 2020, he joined the ranks of billionaire entertainers, following Oprah Winfrey and Jay-Z. But everything shifted on December 8, 2009, when his beloved mother, Willie Maxine Perry, died of kidney failure at 64. Perry has spoken openly, including with Oprah Winfrey, about what came next. Cognac became his escape through the long months of grief, and the sleepless nights were the worst of it. A glass, he has said, slowly became bottles. The grief was compounded by the strange pressure of being one of Black America's most visible success stories. expected to be strong in public while collapsing in private. What saved him was catching it early. He recognized where it was heading before it hardened into something permanent, and he chose discipline, faith, and work instead, pouring the grief into creation rather than a glass. By 2010, he had largely stepped away from heavy drinking. Today, he produces more than a dozen projects a year, founded the Perry Foundation, and donated $1 million to help Black families during the 2020 pandemic. His quietest triumph isn't the studio or the billions. It's that he saw the door opening and closed it himself. DMX. Earl Simmons turned the deepest pain hip-hop has ever recorded into some of its most electrifying music, and he never stopped being honest about where that pain came from. Born in Mount Vernon, New York in 1970, the same town that produced Denzel Washington, his childhood was a continuous ordeal of abuse and group homes by the age of 10. And then came the moment he described as the beginning of his lifelong darkness. At 14, a rapper he trusted as a mentor handed him a joint laced with crack cocaine without telling him. He spoke about that betrayal for the rest of his life, and it locked in an addiction that shaped every chapter that followed. His talent, meanwhile, was volcanic. It's Dark and Hell is Hot entered at number 1 in 1998, and he became the first rapper in history whose first 5 albums all debuted at number 1, selling roughly 74 million records worldwide. His screen work ran parallel: Belly, Romeo Must Die, Exit Wounds, Cradle to the Grave, giving him real leading man weight. But despite repeated stays in rehab across decades, he relapsed again and again and faced serious legal trouble along the way. What made him beloved was that he never performed invulnerability. His Christian faith was genuine, and his prayer at a 2017 tour stop went viral around the world, precisely because it was so nakedly sincere. On April 9, 2021, after a week on life support following a drug-related heart attack, DMX died at a hospital in White Plains, New York. He was 50. Thousands came to mourn him. If his struggle sounds familiar, please know that help is real and always within reach. Michael K. Williams. Michael K. Williams gave television some of its most fully human characters, because he understood human damage from the inside, and said so out loud for decades. Born in Brooklyn in 1966, he danced in music videos for George Michael and Madonna before a bar fight on his 25th birthday in 1991 left him with the facial scar that became his signature. When HBO cast him as Omar Little on The Wire, a stick-up man with an unbreakable code, he created a character President Obama publicly named his favorite. He followed it with Chalky White on Boardwalk Empire and earned 5 Emmy nominations across his career. But what set Michael apart wasn't the resume, it was his radical honesty. He talked openly about crack cocaine and alcohol, admitted relapsing during productions including The Wire itself, and spoke about the trauma of growing up surrounded by violence. He found an anchor in a Newark church, mentored at-risk kids, and treated recovery as ongoing work rather than a finished story. On September 6, 2021, he was found dead in his Brooklyn penthouse. The medical examiner ruled it acute intoxication from fentanyl and related substances, a poisoned supply, not a moral failing. Federal prosecutors pursued the dealers, and the man who sold him that fatal dose was sentenced to 10 years in prison, one of 4 convicted in connection with the case. He was 54. His final performance in Lovecraft Country earned a posthumous Emmy nomination, and his memoir arrived in 2022, ensuring the wisdom he fought for would outlive him. He remains the clearest reminder that being in recovery and being loved does not make anyone immune. If you're struggling, please reach out. No one should carry it alone. Louis Gossett Jr. Louis Gossett Jr. broke a barrier no black actor had ever broken, and then nearly lost everything to what came with it. Born in Brooklyn in 1936, he attended NYU on a basketball scholarship before pivoting to the stage, debuting on Broadway at just 17. Hollywood was slow to embrace him, but his breakthrough arrived as Fiddler in the 1977 miniseries Roots, one of the most-watched television events in American history. Then, at the 55th Academy Awards in 1983, he made history as the first black actor ever to win Best Supporting Actor, for his thunderous turn as Gunnery Sergeant Emile Foley in An Officer and a Gentleman. And behind that gold, the 1980s turned dark. In his 2010 memoir, An Actor and a Gentleman, Gossett described with real candor how Hollywood's party culture pulled him into cocaine and alcohol addiction at the exact height of his fame, and he admitted plainly that it cost him career momentum. Offers dried up as his reliability slipped. The combination of racial barriers, industry pressure, and unlimited access proved overwhelming. He entered treatment in the late 1980s and committed to long-term recovery, and he kept going. Diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2010, he fought through it and worked into his 80s, including a role in the 2023 film adaptation of The Color Purple. He founded the Eroticism Foundation and became a powerful advocate for African American mental health. Louis Gossett Jr. died on March 29, 2024 in Santa Monica at 87. He left behind two legacies at once: the door he opened for every black supporting actor who followed, and the quieter proof that a man can lose his footing at the summit and still climb back. Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams built an empire on saying the thing nobody else would say, and she applied that same unflinching honesty to her own life. Born in Asbury Park, New Jersey in 1964, she graduated from Northeastern University in 1986 and clawed her way up through New York radio in the 1990s, building a syndicated kingdom by 2001. The Wendy Williams Show launched in 2008 and ran 13 seasons until 2022, drawing up to 2 million daily viewers behind that unmistakable greeting. But she never sold the audience a fantasy. In her 2001 memoir, and in countless interviews since, Williams spoke openly about her cocaine addiction during her early radio years, a disclosure most broadcasters would have buried forever. In 2018, after the painful public discovery of her then-husband's affair, she relapsed into alcohol and did something almost unheard of. She checked herself into a sober house in Queens and broadcast the recovery journey on her own show, in real time, to millions. Then, in February 2024, her family confirmed a separate and devastating diagnosis: primary progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia, the same neurological conditions Bruce Willis faces. It's important to be precise here, because the internet has not been. These are progressive brain diseases with their own medical causes, and they should not be casually collapsed into her substance history. That same month, a Lifetime documentary premiered, sparking national debate over her court-appointed guardianship. Today she lives in an assisted living facility, still speaking about addiction when she can. Wendy Williams's story deserves more care than the headlines have given it. A woman who told the truth about herself for decades, now facing something no honesty could have prevented, and who remains worthy of dignity rather than spectacle. Flav. The hype man with the giant clock around his neck says plainly that he should not be alive, and the arc of his last few years is one of the most improbable redemption stories in music. Born William Jonathan Drayton Jr. in Roosevelt, New York in 1959, he could reportedly play piano, drums, and more than a dozen other instruments by the age of 6, though his early life was already marked by chaos and stints in foster care. As co-founder and hype man of Public Enemy alongside Chuck D, he helped make politically charged hip-hop a global force, with It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back in 1988 and Fear of a Black Planet in 1990. The group entered the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2013, but addiction tore through every chapter of it. In his 2011 memoir and repeated interviews, Drayton revealed he was spending upwards of $2,400 a day on crack at his lowest, millions across the decades, and he served jail time and lost custody battles along the way. His mid-2000s reality shows coincided with cycles of relapse and recovery that played out in front of cameras. And then, improbably, he turned it around completely. He celebrated 5 full years of sobriety from drugs and alcohol in October 2023, embraced fatherhood publicly, and in 2024 became the official hype man for the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic swim teams in Paris, cheering for athletes with the same joy he once poured into a stage. Even his closest collaborators have said they never saw it coming. Flavor Flav's late-life turnaround proves that no chapter, however long, has to be the last one. Colman Domingo. Colman Domingo's story is the quiet counter-narrative this list needs, because his sobriety wasn't a rescue from a scandal, it was a decision. Born in Philadelphia in 1969, to parents who emigrated from Belize and Guatemala, he studied journalism at Temple before finding acting through the city's Freedom Theater, and then spent more than 3 decades as a working stage and screen actor before mainstream stardom ever came for him. Broadway knew him from Passing Strange, The Scottsboro Boys, and his Tony-nominated work. Television audiences knew him as Victor Strand across 8 seasons of Fear the Walking Dead and as Ali in HBO's Euphoria. Then, in his 50s, The Eruption. Back-to-back Academy Award nominations for Best Actor. First for playing civil rights organizer Bayard Rustin in Netflix's Rustin in 2023, then for Sing Sing in 2024, making him the first openly gay black actor to earn consecutive lead actor Oscar nominations. Throughout interviews, podcasts, and his GLAAD Vanguard Award acceptance, Domingo has spoken about being sober for over a decade, and he frames it in a way almost no one in Hollywood does. Not as recovery from a public disaster, but as personal liberation. He committed to it quietly, not in crisis, but simply because alcohol no longer fit the life he wanted to build with his husband, Raul, whom he married in 2014. There was no rock bottom, no headline, no intervention. Domingo represents a possibility the culture rarely dramatizes, that sobriety can be a deliberate, dignified choice made in full daylight, rather than a desperate last resort. Some of the most important battles, his career quietly argues, are the ones won long before anyone knows they were being fought. Lakeith Stanfield. Lakeith Stanfield spent years playing characters who felt unnervingly real, and then told the truth about the one thing he'd been hiding. Born in San Bernardino, California in 1991 and raised between Riverside and Victorville, he dropped out of high school for acting classes and worked odd jobs to survive. His breakthrough came in Short-Term 12 in 2013, delivering a rap verse so raw, it announced him instantly as one of his generation's most authentic performers. From there, Get Out, Sorry to Bother You, all 4 seasons of FX's Atlanta as Darius, and most significantly, his Academy Award-nominated turn as William O'Neill in Judas and the Black Messiah in 2021. But in a strikingly personal GQ interview in March 2022, Stanfield revealed publicly for the first time that he had developed a full alcohol dependency during the 2020 filming of The Harder They Fall. He described being unable to get through a day without drinking, crippling anxiety whenever he tried to stop, and the moment that finally forced him to face it, collapsing into a panic during a routine massage. He entered treatment in 2021 and embraced sobriety, and the lifeline came from an unlikely place. His Knives Out co-star Jamie Lee Curtis, herself decades sober, reached out after his Instagram posts hinted at the struggle. The two became sobriety partners, checking in through calls and texts. Now, several years into recovery, Stanfield has spoken about wanting his transparency to matter for someone else, especially young black men taught that asking for help is weakness. His story is proof that the courage it takes to say it out loud, publicly, at the height of a career, is its own kind of performance, the realest one he's given. David Harewood. David Harewood's story belongs on this list, but not for the reason a headline would suggest, because his real battle was never primarily with a bottle. Born in Small Heath, Birmingham, in 1965, to parents who emigrated from St. Lucia and Barbados, he trained at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, graduating in 1990. But at 23, before his career had truly begun, he experienced a complete psychotic break. He has described running through London believing he was speaking with God and being involuntarily committed under Britain's Mental Health Act, hospitalized, heavily medicated, and confronted with racial disparities in psychiatric care that have haunted him ever since. He later highlighted the UK statistic that black people are roughly 4 times more likely than white people to be detained under that act. Alcohol and cannabis entered his story as self-medication through his 20s and 30s, as he refused the prescribed treatment that would have managed his condition, and the drinking only compounded the psychiatric instability underneath. He built his career anyway. CIA officer David Estes on Showtime's Homeland opposite Claire Danes, then Hank Henshaw and the Martian Manhunter across all 6 seasons of Supergirl. In 2019, he produced and starred in the BBC documentary Psychosis and Me, revisiting his own hospitalization with a vulnerability male actors almost never risk, and his 2021 memoir about race, identity, breakdown, and recovery became a bestseller. He now serves as a mental health ambassador across the UK, focused specifically on race-based disparities and the overlap between substance use and untreated psychiatric illness. Harewood's contribution is a correction the whole conversation needs. Sometimes what looks like a drinking problem is a person trying to survive something no one ever diagnosed. Hannibal Buress. Hannibal Buress once changed the course of American culture with a few calm sentences on a comedy club stage, and he applied that same understated clarity to his own drinking, long before anyone could turn it into a story. Born in Chicago in 1983 and raised on the West Side's Austin neighborhood, he studied at Southern Illinois University before dropping out to chase stand-up in earnest by 2007. His career then detonated across every platform at once, writing for Saturday Night Live and 30 Rock, co-starring on The Eric Andre Show, playing Lincoln Rice across Broad City's entire run, and appearing in Spider-Man, Homecoming, Tag, and Baywatch, with Netflix and Comedy Central specials building a devoted following for his deadpan style. In multiple specials and interviews, Buress has talked about why he gave up alcohol, and the reasoning was refreshingly unromantic. It was costing him money. It was dulling his sharpness on stage. It was affecting his health and his opportunities. So he stopped. What separates his story from nearly every celebrity sobriety narrative is the timing. He quit before any damaging incident, before any scandal, before there was anything to apologize for. He then folded the whole thing into his comedy, joking about the specific boredom of being sober in social settings, built entirely around drinking. He's been candid about friction with police, including a 2017 Miami arrest that happened while he was sober, which only sharpened his commitment to keeping his head clear. He still tours, podcasts, and acts. Buress represents something the culture rarely rewards: a man who simply looked at the math, decided alcohol wasn't worth it, and quietly refused to glamorize it ever again. Columbus Short. Columbus Short had everything within reach, and watched it disappear in roughly the span of a single year. Born in Kansas City in 1982 and raised in Los Angeles, he trained as a dancer, choreographing Britney Spears' Onyx Hotel tour in 2004, before leading dance films like Stomp the Yard in 2007. His career-defining break came in 2012, when Shonda Rhimes cast him as Harrison Wright, the fast-talking crisis manager on ABC's Scandal, where he became a fan favorite alongside Kerry Washington during the show's absolute peak. But by 2014, his personal life was collapsing in public. He faced a felony battery charge over a West Hollywood bar fight and domestic violence accusations from his estranged wife, and reported substance use was affecting his work. He was fired from Scandal that April, his character abruptly written out. He later pleaded guilty to misdemeanor battery in 2015 and received probation. That same year, he reached a genuine crisis point and survived a suicide attempt, a moment he has since discussed openly, and one this video won't sensationalize. What matters more is what he's done since. Short has spoken candidly across podcasts and interviews about the cocaine and alcohol abuse that consumed those years, about hitting bottom and losing his home, his family, and a promising career almost overnight, and about rebuilding through independent films and faith-based projects. He frames his recovery, dedicated to his children, not as a finished triumph, but as a daily commitment he has to keep choosing. That honesty is the point. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction or thoughts of suicide, please reach out to someone you trust or a crisis line. Help is real, and you are not alone. 15 stories, 15 battles fought in the shadows, while audiences applauded the red carpet smile. Some walked out of the fire and built something stronger. Some never made it home. And notice what nearly all of them share. They told us themselves. Nobody exposed them. So what truly separates the ones who got out from the ones who couldn't? Faith, family, money, willpower, or simply luck? And the harder question, does Hollywood quietly enable this, glamorizing alcohol on every set and at every after-party? Or do these performers carry the full weight of their own choices? Share your honest thoughts below. Every voice matters here. And subscribe to Secret Celebrity Stories, where we honor the courage behind the fame.